two of us picking up the crowd together.
Thought we'd have that call first before we started. Good afternoon and welcome. It's my pleasure to be your host, I guess. I'm Steve Truman. I'm the city manager for the city of Roseville. And today, the renaming and dedication of our fire headquarters in the name of Joseph and Jeanne Riesterer. We'd like to begin with the invocation. And at this time, I'd like to bring forward Monsignor Ricardo Bass. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here. I had the great privilege of living at Sacred Heart Roseville for a couple of years and got to see Jeanne every day, and to see that beautiful face every day was a real pleasure. A woman truly of real integrity, of humor, and she's just a very solid person. It's been a real important part of my life, and now she serves on a board of which I chair that deals with advising me concerning any sexual misconduct within the Archdiocese. It's a difficult job, but Jeanne, as always, does it very well. So I'm very pleased to be here, and I thank her for this opportunity. Let us pray. Blessed are you, Lord God of all creation, whose goodness fills our hearts with joy this day. As we honor these women and men who devote themselves to helping others, and as we celebrate Jeanne Riesterer and her family. Blessed are you who has brought us together this day to continue to work in service for one another. We ask that you bless all civil officials, that they may serve their communities as well as Jeanne served this community. In a special way, we pray for the people of Roseville, especially those most affected by these difficult economic times. We ask that you bless the women and men who serve from this station. Grant them courage when they are afraid, wisdom when they must make quick decisions, strength when they are weary, and compassion in all their work. When the alarm sounds and they are called to aid both friend and stranger, let them faithfully serve you and their neighbor. We ask that you bless Jeanne and her family. May she continue to be an example of integrity, devotion, and faith. Continue to provide her with good health and a youthful spirit. May those who work here always be inspired by her example. We ask that you bless each of us and all of us, that we may continue to serve you through serving one another in peace and justice and truth. May the blessing of God, his peace and love, rest upon us and our families today and in the future. Amen.
Thank you, Monsignor. And by the way, the weather. Also, a letter from for Father Milligan, why I wasn't in church this morning, would be helpful too. But you know, if that's asking too much, I'd like to, Jeanne, we have a lot of family and friends here today, and I would like to introduce some of the elected officials that have come. First of all, up here on the podium is Mayor Haw. And our city treasurer, Catherine Haw. Yes, there is a relation. Mayor Pro Temp John Churkin and his wife Sharon. Councilman Sam Iudo. Councilwoman Haggerty. Is Jan here? Maybe not. Jan and Leonard send their best. As we know, Leonard has not been feeling his best lately, and I know they would. Leonard, you are feeling your best. He does it to me every time. Councilwoman Colleen McCartney. Councilman Bill Shoemaker. And Councilman Bob Taylor. I believe from the Roseville schools, the president of the Board of Education, Joe Steenland, is here. And also, I'm not sure I haven't seen him, John Clement, the superintendent. Okay. I have, also, if you called in, I expect that you were here, but if I'm wrong, I apologize. We do have from our court, Judge Catherine Steenland. Our city clerk, Joe's younger brother, Rich. I don't know if Senator Switalski was able to make it. His son had a soccer tournament he was going to try. I don't see him, so I don't think he's here yet. Also, a couple of council members from the past, Councilman Art Peters. And Councilman Joseph Petrolak. Also, past city manager Benny Nardelli. I always like to introduce Benny because Benny's been away for 25 years. It does a city manager. It's good to see a guy 25 years later that looks so good. Also, Fire Chiefs, Chief Morley Ireland was going to try to make it today. Is he here? I did see George Hickman. George, where are you? George Hickman. Overdressed is also. And our Chief, Ben Coronado. Dan Gensinius from the Ray Township Fire Department is here. Dan, where are you? Dan's father worked with Fort, and it was nice of you to come today, Dan. Thank you. Also a number of our department heads, Police Chief Mike Pakla, Department of Public Works Director Gary Barrow, Assistant City Manager, City Controller Pete Provenzano, and Brian McGrail. Thank you all for coming. If I missed anybody, I apologize. This year, as you all know, is our 50th year, and our historical and genealogical society has been a major force in bringing things to our attention and things we should do. And one of the things that was discussed very early this year was that something should be done to honor Jeanne Riesterer. And that board came up with the idea of the fire department, or we talked about it, and we suggested, how about the fire department? The council latched onto that idea right away and approved it. And it's my pleasure to introduce a member of the president of the Historical and Genealogical Society, but more importantly, a great friend of Jeanne, Pat Chownyk.
Thank you, Steve. I thought he was going to mention something about the two books that we have brought out for the 50th anniversary. However, he hasn't. And one of the books is about the Roseville Airport. Many of you remember Eastgate used to be the Roseville Airport. It was called either Packard Field, Hartung Airport, and then, but always it was officially Roseville Airport. And also the other book brought out by the Friends, A History of Roseville. And they are both available at the library. Okay. I am honored to be a part of this celebration to pay tribute to the Riesterer family. I'm not going to talk about Jeanne's years in politics. Someone else will talk about that. And I really didn't know Joe very well. I want to talk about Jeanne as a friend with a lifelong commitment to Roseville history. Jeanne and I have been friends for many years. Our children went to school together. Son Gerard was a welcome fixture in our home. Gerard. And I remember Jeanne bringing Rosemary in her footy pajamas to Mother's Club meetings. Right? Usually red. Through the years, Jeanne has managed to absorb amazing knowledge about Roseville. Having her as a friend has been a tremendous advantage to me. She has been very giving of her time to the Roseville Historical Society. She has done 2 Sacred Heart Cemetery tours for RHGS. One's available at the library if you'd be interested in taking it out. And there are fascinating stories about the early residents and settlers of Roseville, those that are buried at Sacred Heart Cemetery. Whenever someone throws a name at me, which I'm not too familiar with, I call Jeanne. She can usually tell me up, down, and sideways about the person, parents, siblings, and where they're buried. And to hear her speak on Roseville history is a real treat. Jeanne has a great, wry sense of humor, as I'm sure most of you know. She has come to my rescue several times when I needed a speaker for the Historical Society. She always says, "Sure, when do you want me?" And she doesn't need notes to talk. And the programs are all different. She had us going down Gratiot one day in our galoshes while she talked about all the buildings up and down Gratiot. Fabulous. I came to realize while writing this, Jeanne never complains. Through her trials and tribulations, and we all know she's been through many of them, she tries to fluff things off with a little laugh as if to say, that's life. For this and for all the great things you and your family have given to my city, to our city, Jeanne, I thank you.
I didn't mention the books because they're selling them at cost. And in these financial times, I have a hard time with anything like that, so I apologize for that. We've been very blessed in Roseville over the last, I've been here 29 years, at very strong councils and strong leadership, which keeps a very confident department heads and employees that allows us to do the job that we want to do. Jeanne definitely was one of those persons, and the individual that I'm about to announce or bring to the podium is another one who understands that the people of Roseville come first, and at all times, the department heads and employees and the council themselves keep that in mind. At this time, I'd like to bring forth Mayor Harold Hoff.
Thanks, Steve. I had written a speech. I guess I'm the one to talk about the politics. And as I was writing it, I had picked up the program that you have in your possession. And I thought, my words can't match what the Riesterer family has written about Jeanne and Joe. So I'm going to use some excerpts from what they have written in the script. The one that caught my attention immediately was the statement, "Our father treasured little more in his life than his beloved wife, the love, health, education, and safety of his children, and to serve the residents of Roseville as the best firefighter he could be." Goes on to say, "Dad never achieved high rank in the Roseville Fire Department. Although he knew his job better than anyone, his talent wasn't passing promotional examinations. It's probably for the best because we're sure Dad wouldn't have enjoyed the annoyance of piles of paperwork that came with the white shirt and crossed trumpets. Nevertheless, his peers knew who he was. In the days we bid him farewell, firefighters came up to us from around southeastern Michigan and told us heroic tales of courage that were a revelation to us, but not a surprise. It's a hefty legacy, and one in which he would have taken much satisfaction. Even though he wouldn't have said much about it, heroes often are like that." And then about the politics, about Mayor Riesterer. Many of you may not know, Jeanne was the first woman mayor and the first mayor to serve a 4-year term. I started my city council tenure 24 years ago, and Jeanne was the mayor at that time. And I don't think I need to tell anybody in the family, coming from a family of 7 boys, Jeanne kind of ruled with an iron fist. My family, 7 boys. I rest my case. When I first sat down at the city council, I was fearful that people could hear my heart beating through the microphone. And then when we were in chambers, you would turn to Jeanne and say, "Can I speak?" And she'd go, "Not yet." And Art Peters and I would sit there, and Art had known Jeanne a longer time than I did, and he turned to me and said, "Get used to it." I have been honored to serve under 3 mayors. Leonard Haggerty in the beginning, Jeanne Riesterer, and then ultimately Jerry also. And the confidence that Jeanne gave us as leaders to make decisions, stand by your decision. Her leadership skills brought cohesiveness to our city. And Jeanne served with dignity and grace, retiring ultimately after 12 years in office, where she handed the gavel over to her successor, for which he thanked her for being the best teacher he ever had. Jeanne was a teacher. She was a disciplinarian. I've often thought in chairing some of my council meetings today, how would Jeanne handle this? I think I'm doing it the same way, Jeanne. She taught us the council meetings were for business. It's city business. It's not entertainment. It's not a show. And we hold that very dear in our hearts today. I'll read another excerpt. It is our fondest hope, well, I'll go back up. Our parents would not have done any of this without love. Love of their profession, love of the community, love of the family, whom they sought to protect and raise in their example. It is the fondest memory of the Riesterer family and mine that the officers of this department will tell new firefighters. We hope that the leaders lead with love, professionalism, order, faith, for in doing so, they will honor all the virtues of Joe and Jeanne Riesterer as they have known. Virtues that endeared them to the people of this community. Many of the virtues continue to rise. The apparatus as alarms are sounded far into the future. And then the statement that caught my heart the most is a plaque that hangs in the Riesterer kitchen that says, "If greater love has no man than he laid down his life for his friends, what can be said about the men and women who will lay down their lives every day for strangers?" Jeanne, I've treasured our relationship for years. I want to wish you and the entire Riesterer family all the best. God bless you in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, we're going to unveil the sign. I'd ask Chief Coronado to please come down, escort the family over to the banner, and we will have, no, Jeanne's going to stay up here. Are you going to stay up here or go? It's up there. Change your program. But the family's still going. Okay. I didn't know what she... Well, you can obviously note my relief that the letters are right. Riesterer is not that easy to spell. And before Jeanne speaks, I'd like to thank the two gentlemen up on the Mike Gaudio and Bobby Logie, who I hope are taking their time down the ladder. We still have work with comp issues. And Bernie Lars coming in today, setting everything up, getting the banner up and getting it all set. I think they deserve a hand. And now it's with great pleasure that I introduce the mayor. Once you're mayor, you're always mayor. Mayor Jeanne Riesterer.
Most people who know me know that I've never had a loss for words, but I am. This is such an honor, such a beautiful thing to see, because Joe and I were native to Roseville. We were born here when there weren't too many cross streets and lots of fields, and the reason we wore our glasses that day was because there weren't any sidewalks in Roseville when we were young, and you got used to ditch jumping. But we were married in '49, and almost immediately thereafter, Joe joined the volunteer fire department. Now, unless you've been married to a volunteer fire department firefighter, you haven't lived. They're nuts. There's a siren at the top of City Hall, and the minute that thing took off, Joe was a very slow, methodical man. Everything he did was in slow motion, except when a whistle blew. And then you've seen that power boost thing on TV? Well, that was Joe. It was power boost all the way. He never missed a beat, never lost a step. Sometimes he shed his, one Mother's Day, he had a brand new suit on, light blue, and he was flying out the door. It was when the motel burned. And I yelled, "Joe, give me your coat," and he did. And the pants were hopelessly streaked. The shirt was ruined. The hand-painted tie was a mess. He never wore it again. But I did save the coat, and every suit came with 2 pair of pants, so we were good for a while. But he just lived fire department, and the women who were pioneers among us, if there was a party or a dance, and a phone call came or the whistle blew, the guys left. We had to find our way home. We gave each other rides because they were gone, not to be seen again until they showed up dirty and smelling like smoke. But that was our life, and it was a good life because he was very dedicated. And he was so happy when he went on the department full time. And he served, he told me one day, Jeanne, he said, when I die, he said, would you put on my tombstone, husband, father, firefighter? And I said, yeah, that's a reasonable request. And I did, because that's exactly what the man was. He was first my husband, always a good father, and just one of those firefighters who just, there's nobody like him. Now, we're a firefighter family, and I'll introduce all the children in a minute, but first of all, I'll show you how far this Jeanne has traveled. And my son Mike, would you stand, Mike? And my son Matt, they're both from the Livonia Fire Department. And my son Chuck was from Troy Fire Department. And my nephew Joe Riesterer was from the Detroit Department. And my grandnephew Eric Oliver, where Eric is, where? There he is. So, and I'm sure there'll be a few more firefighters come on. It's just, it gets in their blood. You can sit down now, guys. It's all right. I just, one of those things. You have to do that. But I will quickly, we had 11 children, and I'll introduce it. Ray isn't here. Ray is in Chicago, for those of you who might have remembered him. My daughter Barbara is here. Barb, stand up, please. Well, you met Mike, and then there's John, right here. And then there's Joyce. He's here somewhere. And Gerard. Gerard's retired from the Air Force. Jim, here he is. And you met Richard. And then you met Matthew. And there's Andrew. And last but not least, my daughter, Rosemary. And before I forget, I want to thank Rosemary for all the work on the program. She did, Ray wrote the narrative, and she tweaked it, because if you know Ray, it would have been 5 pages longer. But anyway, I have to thank you for the tribute. It's a beautiful thing, and your dad would be proud. After Joe died, you guys going?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, they'll be leaving. We never had dinner or a baptism or anything without the whistle going. I don't want to cause a distraction. I just want you to know what our life was like. One morning at, with about, it was around midnight, and I was getting ready to retire. And Joe was on duty, and when they used to get up to Common Road, they'd ask for the lights. So I heard him ask for the lights. And there was a chemical plant burning in Warren, and because of our mutual aid, they went to Warren, and it was bad. The guys were running out of air, and it was a long night. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they finally packed up, so I went to bed. Well, the next morning, I decided I'd get up and make him a big breakfast, and because he'd be tired. So he come walking in, and he didn't look too bad. And I said to him, first of all, he said to me, what's with the breakfast? I said, well, I thought maybe you earned it last night. And he said, no. And I said, what time did you get in? He said, get in? I didn't go out. And I said, what do you mean you didn't go out? And he said, no, I didn't go anywhere. And I said, I heard you call for the lights, Joe. He said, no, you heard me tell him they had the lights. I said, I stayed up all night praying you. So, you know. About a week later, he came in one morning, he looked like the wrath of God. And he, I don't know what he said about it last night, and I said, why'd you have a fire? And he said, you didn't know? And I said, no. And he said, well, we were at Selfridge. He said there was a hangar on fire, and there was an armed plane in the hangar. I said, good, now we're even. You know, I figured I'd done enough the week before. And, it was a good life. It was he loved his kids, and he set him a good example, and we were proud of him, and still are to this day. And after he died, I went back to school because it was something I always did. In times of stress, I went to school, and then I finished that and didn't have anything better to do. So I fell in love with the people in Roseville, and I've always loved the people in Roseville. But serving on council was such a privilege, such an honor. You're a little bit of a lion tamer. You have to watch Wisconsin all the time. But they were very respectful to me, and no matter where I went, I have to honestly say, people have always treated me with respect, and I've always appreciated it. So I truly thank everybody who's involved in this. I can't tell you, I'll go by the station with pride and see that sign and be forever grateful. First of all, for Joe Riesterer and his life, for his family, for the people in Roseville, and for all of you kind enough to come and help me celebrate tonight. Thank you.
I would like to thank the family for all their help with the event today, especially Rose Marie, who, a lot like Mom, I take it. This is what we're going to do and how we do it. We got it done. So. But it was very helpful. And talking about how the family interacted and the history, the fact that they put that together in the program made everybody's life a lot easier. I'd like to also thank the fire department for allowing us to utilize today for this, the open house. We want to make the event special this year. Andy Maldonado, who does the coordinating of this, about 6 weeks ago, I said to Andy, Andy, we got one other thing we're going to do that day, and I threw this in. And being as Andy is, he says, yeah, we'll get it done, no problem. Same thing like I talked about Bernie earlier, and I appreciate that. So, the end of a beautiful day in Roseville. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we will see all of our invited guests elsewhere. Thank you.